Yo everyone, so in my last video I talked about like how Tyler Perry and Spike Lee did like a portrayal of black men, but now this is more of like a jab at Hollywood in general. One of my biggest issues with Hollywood since the 90s. I would say one of the worst things about Hollywood since the 90s was their adamant portrayal of black people in movies. It is at this point in my life is just degrading and I don't understand why. It's just we've been dealing with this same topic for like 30 years. And it's so crazy because in the 70s and 80s, we actually had a pretty good image on television and movies. If you look at, like I said, The Cosby Show, A Different World, hell, even Family Matters, even though I'm not a big fan of Family Matters, but Good Times, The Jeffersons, even Julia with Diane Carroll. Yeah, she was a single mom, but that's because her husband died. We had a very positive image of ourselves in these type of times. Now in the 70s, we did get stuff like Dolomite and things like that, and all those black exploitation films, but they kind of paved the way for certain things that happened down the line. But the reason why I aim at the 90s is because the 90s is the start of this hood gang violence, drug dealing, over sexualization of black people in the media. And it's unfortunate because, but in the 90s, there was still more of a tasteful area. There was still shows like Smart Guy and Moesha and In the House and Hang on Mr. Cooper and things like that. But in the movies, we had like Menace to Society, Belly, and all those other type of movies. And some of those movies were just hood for the sake of being hood. Boys in the Hood, on the other hand, directed by John Singleton, R.I.P., was a movie that was basically depicting the issues of black life in the hood in general, while also tackling issues on the black community itself and how we got here. There was a difference with Boys in the Hood. But a lot of those other movies just felt like black people walking around shooting each other, hyper aggressive, hyper disrespectful, the hyper sexualized, degrading each other, degrading the women. And it just got real crazy at that point. And it seemed like that kind of transferred over in the 2000s with as great of a show as The Wire is, right? But The Wire and other stuff like that coming out. Like the movie was like Shadas. No, it's Jamaican, but like they was on there drawing. Like, and it is crazy to think about how like the image of black people, because they still have the darker skin, they still have the darker look, the ethnic look. So they, put Jamaicans in that same area with black people. And I don't understand how black people haven't fought against this though. That's the problem that I think I might have is Hollywood's portrayal of black people, but black people just going sure whatever. And one of the biggest things that I hate is like it seems like we're scared to fight back anymore. Like when Black Panther came out in 2018, it was a big deal. Why? Because it was a black superhero, but he wasn't hyper violent for the sake of being hyper violent, and he actually seemed to enjoy being alive, which is something most black people don't get to see on screen, which is another reason why I think it was such a big deal in the box office, over $1 billion. Movies just don't give us that much of a positive image like that anymore. So to see something like Black Panther was a breath of fresh air. But then, as we get Black Panther, we get a bunch of shows like Power and BMF and bunch of our P Valleys and all those other shows. And every time I turn around, it is the most hyper violent, pseudo masculine archetype of black men, hyper sexualized, overly masculine presence of black women in media nowadays is so far in between. Abbott Elementary, led by a black woman, she actually seems like she's enjoying her career with this show, which is great to see. We had great shows like How to Get Away with Murder and Scandal, and the black women were so like positive with their own dark sides to them in those shows, and that was acceptable because there was at least some story driven there, and the women actually seemed to have character and moments and morals and things like that. But then there, like I said, shows like P Valley and BMF were like it's just ghetto culture, and it's like black people just absorb that stuff so much. Even to the point where now, like, a show that had a positive black image on it, Fresh Prince of Bel Air, is now a ghettofied version, and black people are calling that the black version of the show. And I'm like, hyper ghetto culture is the black version of an already black TV show from 30 years ago? What are we talking about? And then you got Hollywood's like, yeah, let's just promote this. Let's just do this. And Hollywood kills me because if you ever pay attention to Hollywood, whenever there's a big black movie or something like that, or a big movie starring a black character, they can only ever be with a white person. Like, look at Denzel's whole career for the most part. Isn't it weird that like Denzel Washington and Will Smith never made a movie together? That's one positive black man, another positive black man together in the same film. They wasn't about to let that happen. They put Will Smith and Martin Lawrence together and made Bad Boys, but for the most part, they were very R-rated drug busting cops, but there was still a positive image even there because Marcus Burnett is a family man. He has a wife, he has children. And then you have Mike Lowry, who was a trigger happy, gung ho cop, played by Will Smith, who, gets laid a bunch and just got a bunch of money left from his parents and this and a third. And he's out here wilding out and he never really settled down, didn't want a family. Both images of black men kind of put together to make a team that actually makes sense. If Bad Boys was made now, I feel like one of them would be hyper feminine or mad disrespectful or had a bunch of kids lying around or just walking around slapping women just for the sake of it. And it'd just be a hyper disrespectful masculine black man. But these brothers were actual men at the time back when the first Bad Boys was made in 95. And I'm so glad that Bad Boys for Life and Bad Boys Ride or Die never deviated from the plan because they could have easily deviated from them being great cops and this and the third and being good, positive black men in the community, especially Marcus Burnett. But they haven't changed that narrative, and I'm happy, even to the point where in Bad Boys Ride or Die, I'm sorry, not Ride or Die, Bad Boys for Life, Marcus's daughter is getting married to Reggie. Reggie's still around, and he became a Marine, and he's a positive force with his wife and his kid, and they're about to have a kid in the fourth one, another one. So the positive black family being shown in a movie like that in Bad Boys Ride or Die this year was a pleasant sight for sore eyes. That's how I felt about Creed 3 when Michael B. Jordan he had to direct his own film. You know what I mean? And he takes care of his daughter. He's married to the mother of his child. They are married. They only have the one kid, but he's a positive influence in his daughter's life and his wife's life. Seeing a happy black family in 2023 in media was so shocking to me. And that should not be the case. That shouldn't have to be the case to see a happy black family on television or in a movie. Yeah, family drama happens, certain things happen, but there he's not in there beating on her, he's not cheating on her, he's very loyal to her, even though he's a famous athlete and he's the heavyweight champion, he is still loyal to his wife. He's not cheating on her, beating on her. No other dude gotta come in and save her. They're not just divorced because they hate each other. They are in a good marriage. That shouldn't be the norm of being shocked to see something like that in media. And my issue with Hollywood is they've been projecting the broken, beat down, distraught black person, male or woman or family for decades. And I'm tired of seeing it. And this personal gripe with me towards Hollywood is the fact that this is how they view us. This is really how they view us. If you pay attention to most black roles since 1991, you're either a drug dealer, you are a gangbanger, you are a killer, you're an ex felon, you are a hypersexualized woman, you are a hypersexualized man, you are a woman with multiple kids, you're a single mom, you are hyper masculine for a woman, you got to be strong and independent, you're either a stripper or whatever, a jump off every now and then. It's rare when there is just a positive image of black women and black men on a regular basis anymore. And I'm just kind of tired of seeing it. That's why I love the movies like Creed and Black Klansman and Black Panther and hell, like I mentioned, even the creator. It's a rough movie because he was with the woman, he assumed she was dead, and things like that was going on. But He was a positive image. He wasn't walking around just gun toting, shooting, and blasting and talking all crazy. No, he spoke like an adult. And the same thing for John David Washington with Tenet. That's three great movies with him. Tenet isn't that great to me, but it is still a cool, positive, masculine black male figure walking around doing what he got to do. Is it over convoluted? Yes, but is it a good image of black men? To me, yeah. And I got to thank Christopher Nolan for that. I took a white director to get something like that twice with the creator and black and Tenet with Christopher Nolan and Gareth Edwards with the creator, and they had to use John David Washington, who is a pretty good actor, to display that. And one of the things that I can't stand is the argument of black people don't control their own narrative anymore. We absolutely do. We created Power. We created BMF. We created Pia Valley. We created all of these shows. We created all these negative images of black people, especially with Tyler Perry now, with Beauty and Black and all the Queen's Men and all these hypersexual pseudo masculine, pseudo feminine shows. These are created by black people. White people aren't making these. They might be producing them, but they're not making them. They're our ideas. And then we got to go into the Tubi thing, which Tubi is actually a really good streaming service. They got some great content. If you like old TV, go on Tubi. If you like movies, go on Tubi. But then there's a lot of independent black people making films on Tubi, and those movies are the same damn thing. Some of those Tubi movies, stuff that I've seen clips of, are just egregious to me. That this is the only way we could portray black people on screen in 2024. So the narrative of we don't control our own narrative anymore doesn't make sense, because when black people controlled our narrative in the 80s, we got the Cosby Show, A Different World, so many other black shows with black families where the black man was around, he was in the house, he loved his kids, took care of his kids. There were some dirty jokes here and there, but it was a sitcom, so of course they did. But at least we were together. We had shows like Living Single where you see four different types of black women. You see the super serious one, you see the one in her own, magazine company. You see the ditzy one who actually is the one that gets married. You see the bougie one. You get a taste of four different black women on that show, but none of them were a negative image. Even at their worst, they were still a positive image of black women on TV. You had Kyle, who worked in the stock market. He was a black man. He was well spoken, well dressed, well put together. Did he sleep around? Yes, but did he have a bunch of kids running around? No. And when the ending of the show came around and Maxine ended up inseminated by Kyle, which is a dumb, ridiculous plot point of a sitcom, but he said, "Well, I'm gonna take care of you and the child," even to the point where when Half and Half was on TV, which was also created by Yvette Lee Bowser, which is a good thing. Kyle and Maxine show up. They have a daughter. They're still together. So that episode of Half and Half basically confirms, yeah, Kyle and Maxine worked it out and they're still together. And they still only have the one kid. That seemed to be like the last stand of positive images of black people was around that time. It went from like Girlfriends and Half and Half, and hell, I even liked Eve. That was my show and stuff like that. And then it just kind of went off the rails, and it seemed like Blackish was kind of trying to bring back the cool black family sitcom. And I don't even think black people really watched Blackish like that. I think it was more so white people and other people who like Blackish. But the Blackish ran a long time. It is really sad to me the way Hollywood has like really skewed black people's images. And I haven't even gotten into the whole Tyler Perry Spike Lee thing again, because we already see like the way Tyler Perry portrays black men is just outrageous to me. That every time, except for like House of Pain and maybe like Meet the Browns, the sitcom, where the black males actually portrayed in a great image without having to fix somebody. It's like this black man's gonna beat this black woman down to the point of no return. Then here comes this magical black man to show up to fix the situation. And it's just like, why can't he give us a positive black family just start to finish? And even his portrayal, like the smart black woman in those movies, Medea is actually really smart. Medea is just crazy, right? Medea gives some of the best life advice, the best experience advice, the best everything, but she does some of the most ghetto, outlandish, ratchet stuff of all time. So Big Mama is actually a thug. So Medea plays Big Mama, but she's a thug Big Mama. So he wiped out that whole thing too. It's like, man, when do we get black people looking good in movies and TV more often than what we've been getting? And remember what happened, was it 2023, 2022 with that Good Times reboot, that minstrel show of an animated series? And I'm looking like, who thought this was a good idea? Who thought it was a good idea to make a minstrel show like that damn anime series? That was one time where black people pushed back, and I said, good, do this more often, please. Like, we really got to get back to something. If we got to get the positive black people, like, do we got to get Debbie Allen on the phone and get her back to making new black TV shows, and get her and get Reginald Vell Johnson and all them from back in the day to make TV shows for black people? Because if we have to, we should probably try to do that, because Hollywood has done so many things with the black image in media. I can't even begin to fathom how we could even fix that. And as wildly satire as something like the Boondocks is, at least there's a better image of black people in the Boondocks with Huey and even Granddad. Even though Granddad is outlandish at times, there's still a better image of black people in that show than there are of black people anywhere else. Huey is one of my favorite characters in fiction. That is a fact. You can tell by my icon picture, right? Like, I'm basically modeling my channel after Huey a little bit. And we just don't see, we don't even see shows like the Boondocks anymore, where it was satire. Like, Aaron McGregor's whole point of the Boondocks was to a make fun of black culture, but also putting in the positive influences to get it to a different point. And we always miss the point because we're too busy laughing at the ratchet stuff, because it is hilarious, don't get me wrong, but we miss Huey's main point. Huey is the best character in the Boondocks for a reason, but everyone gravitates towards Riley because he's the outspoken, loud, wannabe thug stereotype of black boys. And that's getting pumped into our heads young. Like Riley, want to listen to Gangstalicious and Thugnificent and all them dudes. And look at how Riley acts. And it's also a little bit upsetting, R.I.P. to John Witherspoon, but they talked about bringing back the show. I don't think they should. But if they did, I would like them to make it more like the comic. But, I digress. So many different areas Hollywood could go to make black people look better than they do us. Now, as far as I know, Conscious Bay just did a video recently about not seeing Wicked, because her issues with Wicked is the black woman is being played as the witch who's being outcast by society, and she's got the harsh evil role and this, that, and the third. And I actually get her problem with that, because that is a normal thing that they do to black women with the race dichotomy, and it is unfortunate. Hell, I remember being a kid watching Kim Possible, right? We all remember Kim Possible. Kim Possible was the truth. But even her friend Monique, the loud mouth, a little bit on the ghetto side black girl telling the white girl to be a strong, independent woman and this, that, and the third. And I remember thinking, damn, even Monique on on Kim Possible was a little out there, wasn't she? And I would say something that I remember as a kid, which made me realize like maybe I could do something with my life, was One on One. Yeah, I remember One on One with Flex Alexander, and he was a single dad because Tina Arnold was the mom, but the mom was off doing her own thing, and Kyla Pratt was the daughter. And I remember thinking like, yeah, cool, a single black dad on television. There was the other show before that. Was a Smart Guy? Was a Smart Guy was a single dad, or was it In the House? Let me know in the comments down below. But I think it might have been one of those. Even the blatant like comedic shows like Martin and Jamie Foxx, they were funny as hell, but still had great moments great representations of us and everything else. And it was never like not a great sign to watch those shows. Like I still watch those shows to this day because I don't have anything to watch positive for black people anymore. So I have to still watch shows from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago because I refuse to watch today's modern black entertainment. So Hollywood gonna have to switch up, and I think black people are gonna have to make Hollywood switch up because what is the point of us consuming this content when this is what they think about us? They obviously think negative about us, and we obviously think negative about ourselves to keep watching this content when we could boycott for better positive content. And the people who are going to watch it better watch it, and the people who don't watch it don't have to. But I'm kind of over the way Hollywood portrays black people. We can be positive forces. We can be positive leaders in situations. I would love to see a black general in the movie that's not loud spoken. Hell, Die Hard was it two? John Amos was the general. Rest in peace, John Amos. But he was a loud, gung ho, over, you know what I'm saying, over uncomposed general. But he had his shit in line. He had shit in line. It wasn't a bad role for him. It was perfect for him actually. But I would still like to see a black man being as composed and being a good leader. I have some examples of that in another video, but this is about dealing with Hollywood and how they don't portray black people in the best light, and they really didn't even before the 80s. If you go back and listen to Public Enemy's Burn Hollywood Burn, it's Ice Cube, Big Daddy Kane, and Chuck D talking about how Hollywood portrays African American men in film. It's even there in what, 89, 90? So we gotta get to the point where we start seeing more positive influences on us, but we also have to take part in that ourselves, right? We also have to take a part in ourselves and take our image and make it our own again, because it seems like Hollywood's interpretation of black people is what we see on television, what Hollywood lets get through. But that's all I got to say for this topic for right now, because I'll definitely have another talk about this eventually. But hope y'all have a good time. Hope you had a good time listening to this. I'll see y'all on the next one. Let me know how y'all feel about this topic down below. Like, comment, subscribe for more, and I'll see y'all on the next one.